All right, let's talk about a really powerful, kinda counterintuitive idea. What if the part of your work that you absolutely dread, the grind, the boring stuff, what if that was actually your single greatest advantage? Let's dive in. Seriously, think about this for a second, especially if you're just starting your career. What if all that unglamorous groundwork, the deep research, the repetitive practice, the stuff nobody ever posts on Instagram, what if that was secretly the most valuable thing you could possibly be doing? You know, this image just nails a core human truth, doesn't it? We are obsessed with the result, the promotion, the launch, the big win. But the process to get there? Yeah, it's a toxic relationship. We want the prize, but we can't stand the struggle. And it turns out this isn't some personal flaw, it's literally our brain's default setting. So why is this our default? Well, it's because we've all been sold an illusion. Our entire culture is basically built around this perfectly edited highlight reel of success, and it's about time we took it apart. And this is what's called the iceberg illusion. We see that little tip sticking out of the water, right? The overnight success, the seemingly effortless genius. But what we don't see is the massive, invisible foundation holding it all up. The years of boring groundwork, the constant failures, the early mornings. We completely mistake the event of success for the long, grueling process that actually created it. Okay, so if we logically know the groundwork is necessary, why do we fight it so hard? Let's get into the hidden programming, the deep-seated biological reasons our brains are basically wired to hate the grind. Look, these aren't character flaws, they're just human nature. First, our brains are built for biological efficiency. They're always looking for the shortcut to conserve calories. Second, we fall for the lottery mindset, where these crazy stories of overnight success make the wild exception feel like the rule. Third, that curated culture we just talked about. And finally, and this is a big one we need to unpack, the fear of failure. Let's just sit with this for a second because it's such a subtle but powerful trap. If you don't really try and you fail, you've got a perfect excuse, right? I barely even worked on it. But if you do the groundwork, you give it your absolute all, and you still come up short? Oh, man, that stings the ego. So weirdly enough, staying unprepared becomes this subconscious way to protect our own self-esteem. Okay, so we've established that we're basically programmed to avoid the hard stuff. But here's where we flip the entire script. This programming isn't your weakness. It's your greatest opportunity. It creates your 90% advantage because it's the exact point where almost everyone else gives up. This chart says it all. In pretty much any field you can think of, 90% of people will quit the second things get difficult or, frankly, just boring. It's only that 10% who understand that the boring part is the price of admission. This is the zone where all your competition just disappears. And here it is, the key insight of this whole thing. The boredom and the difficulty aren't the obstacle on your way, they are the way. They're the barrier to entry that filters out 90% of the competition. Think about it. If it were easy, the rewards would be worthless. Your willingness to do the hard work is your unfair advantage. Now, let's watch how this exact principle plays out in the highest stakes arena of all, your money. We're going to use long-term investing as the ultimate case study for why patience through difficulty is the ultimate secret weapon. First, we have to make a crucial distinction. A casino is a zero-sum game. For you to win, someone else at the table has to lose. The pie is a fixed size. Real investing, on the other hand, is a positive-sum game. As great companies innovate and grow, the entire economic pie gets bigger. You aren't taking from others, you're participating in collective growth. But guess what? Just like with our careers, our brains are not wired for patient investing. A couple of major glitches always trip us up. First, there's loss aversion. The pain of losing $1,000 feels about twice as intense as the joy of gaining $1,000. This is what leads to panic selling. Second, recency bias. If the market is down today, our emotions just scream that it's going to be down forever. We are wired for the now, not for the decades that real wealth building takes. I mean, when you see it laid out like this, the difference is just stark. In the casino, the odds are stacked against you, and you're chasing immediate results. In the market, history favors the patient, and the timeline is measured in decades. The real difficulty in investing isn't about complex math. It's about the emotional discipline to do nothing, when every single instinct is screaming at you to panic. And that brings us to our final and, I think, most powerful point. True mastery in this game isn't about constant action and frantic trading. No, it's about mastering the profoundly difficult art of doing absolutely nothing. Warren Buffett's legendary partner, the great Charlie Munger, summed up a lifetime of wisdom with this one quote. Just let it sink in for a second. The big money is not in the buying and the selling, but in the waiting. The hardest and most profitable work you can do is often just waiting, patiently. So what does this waiting actually look like in practice? It's not passive. It's a predator mindset. First, you do that deep research, the boring groundwork, to find amazing companies. Then, you practice extreme discipline waiting, maybe for months, maybe for years, for a market-wide panic. And only then do you strike, buying when everyone else is consumed by fear.
This is so critical, especially today in our age of constant information overload. We feel like we should always be checking, tweaking, reacting. But checking your portfolio constantly, it's like going out to your garden and measuring a sapling every hour. It doesn't make it grow any faster, it just makes you anxious and way more likely to pull it out of the ground too early.
And this, right here, brings everything together. You see, mastering a skill, whether it's for your career or learning an instrument, it's hard, but the effort is mostly linear. You practice for an hour, you get a little bit better. But mastering your emotions to achieve financial discipline, that is a completely non-linear battle. It's not about putting in more hours. It's about winning the intense, irrational fight inside your own head. So we'll end here. The entire world is screaming at you to do more, be faster, react instantly. But maybe, just maybe, your greatest strength, your most unfair advantage, is the discipline to patiently do the groundwork, and then the even harder discipline to simply wait. What part of your life could be totally transformed by embracing the advantage of difficulty? Thanks for tuning in.